Let's talk about temperature in the Central Valley of California. So this year, what we did for the first time was we did not use our AC at all. And this was just a mental thing for us. We have lived in areas without AC where it's been more humid and more hot, and where we only used a fan. And we lived in the Philippines. It's very hot. All we had access to was a fan, and that would be when you would lay down to go to sleep. And a lot of the, ladies especially would fan themselves with a fan. They still don't have AC in the Philippines for the vast majority of people. So that just got me to thinking about the Central Valley and the hot temperatures that we have. We have a dry heat, humidity about 30% typically, and it's easier to cool off in a dry heat. Sun goes down, outdoor temperature drops, and it's comfortable at night. It's very comfortable in the morning. On your hottest days of August, you can still cool off depending on the time of the day. So we have lived here in the Central Valley on and off since about 1979. And I pulled historical temperature data from long-term reporting stations. And during the 1930s, we had such hot weather for about an 8-year stretch that was unrelenting. To give an example, the average number of days over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the Central Valley, where I am at, has been, for about the past 10 years, has been between 30 and 40 days average. During the 1930s, the most that they had was 84 days. And these are not consecutive days. But even then, for consecutive days, which I believe is 29, that occurred back in the 30s as well. So we have not really had hot temperature like they had back in the 1930s. And if you think about the development of the Central Valley at the turn of the 20th century, they didn't have AC. They probably had ice brought in, right, to cool off your drink or whatever. Homes were being electrified, so very few probably had fans during 1901, the turn of the 20th century. And up into the 30s, I don't know, maybe half the population had a fan that was electric driven, but certainly no AC. But yet they survived because they knew how to survive. And not just here in the Central Valley where it gets hot, but other areas of the country, especially Arizona, on the East Coast where it's very humid, in Florida and things like that. And they all survive without AC. So, it became a mental problem to solve. And when you think about it, not only is it just a comfort, to be cool, it could be an excess comfort where you really don't need that and you can still be comfortable. So in our household, it's easier with the kids being out because you want your kids to be comfortable. But with the wife and I, she loves hot weather. So going without AC was right up her alley. I was the one that had to adjust. And in years past, my adjustment was 82. We would set the interior thermostat at 82 degrees during the summer, because 83 would be my sweat zone, right? So I kind of figured that out. But this year, I was like, okay, well, if we just don't use AC, I'm going to be the one that's going to have to acclimate. But let's just see how it goes. So the first thing I did was improved fans to push air. So in the past, I had plastic bladed one fan, or two fans actually. The CFM was not very high. It's a box fan that you buy at Walmart. And but it did okay. I would open the windows in the morning and it would cool the house off by about 5 degrees. So this year I went with a metal bladed fan that is about 4 times the CFM, And I bought two of those, and now I open the windows. I have one on one side of the house, one on the other, and I open the front door, and that pushes all this cold air through the house. And I can cool the indoor temperature off by about 10 degrees or more. So that was a big help. So to give you an idea, on the hottest day of the year, we were pushing about 109 degrees. And I opened the fan in the morning, and the outdoor temperature was about 72, 75. And the indoor temperature in the morning was about 84. So I was able to knock that temperature down to 80, and which is a big help. The hottest that it got indoors was about 88 degrees. And this is without AC. And this would be between, actually about 6 p.m., 7 p.m. it would peak, just right after the sun when the sun's getting ready to set. And it'd be about 88, 89, and then we turned the ceiling fan on, and that was enough. And I wasn't sweating at all. I was wearing t-shirts. And that's why I think it was more mental, you know. And when we think of comfort, you know, it's good to step back. Okay, what can I really tolerate and still be comfortable? And I think just thinking of our ancestors and, you know, what they went through, for me mentally, it was an easy shift. If they could do it, I could do it. So, and I did. And I kind of surprised myself. So I fully don't understand why it was easy, right, for me. But as I said, the wife was in paradise. She loved it. So next year we will not be using our AC. And I pulled up, you know, the past 100 years, the average temperature, to understand how temperature is being affected in the valley, and this is what I found. So the daytime temperatures are barely creeping up. They're kind of steady, right? There have been El Nino associated heat waves where some years have spiked with the average mean temperature. However, by and large, it's been steady. Where we see the increase in temperatures at night. And to give you an idea, back in the 30s, when we were having all these temperatures above 100 degrees, and our record comes from the 30s, the hottest that we had in our area was 116. And we've come nowhere near close to that, despite all the CO2 in the air, right? So the nighttime temperature will cool off to the 50s, mid-50s, mid-60s. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. Now we cool off in the high 60s, low 70s at night. So that's about a good 10-degree difference, a little more than that. And it's not attributable to CO2, and this is why. These thermometers are located at airports primarily, or in downtown areas where you have all this urban development that consists of concrete and asphalt. And that absorbs energy greater than dirt with foliage. So when nighttime comes, you have all this stored energy in this hot blacktop asphalt or the concrete that slowly releases overnight, and it warms your towns, it warms your cities. They've done studies on this, and the warming can be up to as much as 10 degrees. That accounts for it, okay, in my opinion. So without having a isolated station that's out in the middle of nowhere to compare it with, it's really hard to say. Now, I found a station in Las Vegas that's in a wildlife refuge, and you can see that those temperatures are much cooler than what the airport reports in Las Vegas, especially at night. So it cools off greater in the desert than it does in the city. And that is attributable to the urban heat island effect, which is something you can study. It's what the IPCC recognizes, and so on and so forth. I could get off into an entire discussion on that, because that is the lion's share of the warming that we're seeing. So when they say, oh, temperatures at night are raising faster, well, yeah, you have to knock it down by quite a bit because of that urban heat island effect, which is something they're not doing. So getting back to temperatures in the Central Valley, Our daytime temperatures are tracking fairly consistent. The nighttime temperatures are increasing, and that's the lion's share of the warming. Now, looking at 100 years, how much warming has the average mean gone up? So I took the first 20 years and the past 20 years, so you've got 60 years in between. I ran the average mean against the average mean, and this is with full reporting, daily reporting. So you don't really have, there's a few missing days, but not much to be significant. There's been 1 degree Fahrenheit raise in temperature. 1 degree, okay. So with all the CO2 in the air, I would think it would be a lot higher than that. So in fact, the 1930s, the reason it's skewed that way, the 1930s daytime temperatures were a lot hotter. And here they're not as hot, but the evening temperatures, or the morning temperature, the nighttime temperature has risen. So it's been a balance, but there has been slight warming by 1 degree. So with that knowledge, and with our approach to acclimation, we look forward to not using our AC in the future and not getting solar or anything like that. So our bill, give you an idea, kilowatt hours, our bill, and we have about a 1,600 foot square home. We use just under 400 kilowatts per month. August was our cheapest electricity bill. It should have been the highest, right? Well, that's because we're not using our dryer and we're not using our AC. Now, our electricity bill is going to be a little higher during the winter because we're going to be using our dryer, okay? So, funny enough, you know, where we have natural gas heating and electric cooling, we're going to have a higher electricity bill in the winter months. So, and because of the Tier 1 program that we signed up for through PG&E, if we keep our electricity usage below the baseline, which is about 530 kilowatt hours at 36 cents, then you do the math on that, you know, we're under $100. The last bill we had was 92. But what PG&E will do if you keep it below the baseline is they'll give you a discount. And I think it was between a 5 and 10% discount. I haven't calculated it. It wasn't a full 10%. So that's just another thing. However, California does pay the highest electricity rates in the country. So that's it for this video. And this is how we beat the heat in the Central Valley of California. This is the Cold War sailor out.